say, oh, my Jewishness is not really part of my identity. Because if one says, oh, Jewishness is not part of my identity, this relationship is going to work. I mean, let's say if you look at plant life, any plant you see today or tree survived an incredible amount of difficulty in terms of evolution, because so many of the species and plants are not here. The only plants that are here today are plants that were so malleable and resilient, they were able to adapt and evolve, and so we have them today. So Jews, we go back thousands of years. A few thousand years ago, about 2,000 years ago, according to most historians, the Jewish community, or 2,500 years ago, was the same size as the Chinese. 14 million, 7 million, 3 million, different numbers, but roughly the same size. So today there are well over 1 billion, the Chinese people, and we're still 14 million, say. So most Jews, over the centuries, what happened to all the Jews, or over the millennium? Many Jews disappeared because of the hardship, the difficulty, assimilation. It was very, very easy for a Jew to disappear. It was very hard to remain Jewish. To remain Jewish over the millennia meant that you had a tremendous amount of resilience and sacrifice and heroism. So any Jew alive today, for hundreds of years basically, for even thousands of years, their ancestors were committed and sacrificed and gave so much to allow us to be here today. So when you look at a Jew today, it's not, oh, by accident you're Jewish today. If you're a Jew today and you know you're Jewish, you're coming from thousands of years of tremendous self-sacrifice that allowed you to get to here today. Now that's part of your identity. I'm not sure you can see it in the lab, but it's there. And it will come out often. Somebody could say, oh, I don't feel anything Jewish. And then Israel's threatened, and suddenly they're listening to the news every 2 hours. What happened? In 67 and 73, when Israel was under a tremendous attack, and it looked like you could have another Holocaust, you had literally hundreds of thousands of Jews around the world who were externally not engaged Jewishly, and they weren't concerned with Israel. Suddenly they couldn't sleep at night. There's a profound Jewishness, a connection to other Jews, a connection to Eretz Yisrael, to Israel, that sometimes is submerged, but at moments it comes out in a profound way. Children bring that out. When a person gets a bit older, they say, wow, my Jewishness is relevant. So that's why I'm not even talking about Jewish law. Obviously, Jewish law wants Judaism to continue, so it says a Jew should marry a Jew, even as other faiths want members of their faith to marry each other. So certainly we know what Jewish law says about a Jew marrying a Jew. Certainly that's what Judaism wants, because it believes it's the best path for a Jew to live. It's the deepest way for a Jew to live. It's the most joyous way for a Jew to live. It's the best for the Jew. I often tell people that ask me, I don't walk around campus telling people who to marry and who to date, but when a couple says, Rabbi, we want to meet, we're thinking, are you sure you want to discuss this? Yes, okay. Sometimes I'll tell the person who's not Jewish, remember, these are discussions before they're even engaged, they're students, and they're asking, they're coming for advice. I would often tell the person that's not Jewish, I say, if you really love this Jewish person, don't marry them. So they say, what? How does that work? I say, if you truly love them, don't marry them. Why? Because if you really love the person, the question you need to ask is this going to be the best for them? Is this the best thing for them? Is the best thing for them to have a home that is not built on Jewish values, to raise children not brought up with their Jewish history? Or is the best thing for this person to build a Jewish home? So if you truly love them, you want what's best for them. And what's best for this person is to build a Jewish home and to marry somebody Jewish so that they can express and live all those things that are so much part of who they are. And that's often, you don't want somebody who's, let's say, a Christian and really wants to live a Christian life to pretend to be Jewish, or to say, oh, no, convert out of love. Conversion and love are two separate things. If a person genuinely wants to be Jewish, they feel it in their heart, certainly they convert, and they're an honored Jew. But if somebody doesn't really want the Jewish path, and that's completely fine, and they feel my spiritual connection is the Christian path, that's what I was brought up with, it's a crime to force them to convert to Judaism. It's just not nice. It's not spiritual. It's not godly, and it's not loving. Oh, because I'm Jewish, you're converting to make my grandmother happy or me. it's disingenuous. We need to be true to who we are. The Jew needs to be true to their Jewishness, the Christian to their Christianity, and every faith community to their faith. So you have to keep things real and deep, and that's the way people live the deepest and most beautiful and most romantic way. So a Jew, to live their Jewish life, that is the happiest way for them to live. Each at their own level, but be who you are. You cannot be happy if you're not who you are. And marriage is a beautiful institution, but you need to be happy in who you are, and you need to create that beautiful Jewish home. So you need to marry Jewish to bring all those things out. If not, it's kind of a denial of some of the deepest things you have in you. Imagine you're a great musician, and you say, I don't listen to music, I don't get involved with music. I'm not making a moral judgment. I'm saying you're denying something beautiful you have in yourself. It's a poorer, sadder, lonelier life. A life without love, without music, is a sadder, lonelier life. So that is the same with Jewishness. To have that Jewishness in you and then not to live with it is a sadder, lonelier life.
So how do you feel that change one's
So how do dynamics change once there's children in a relationship? An excellent way to know what you want in your life is to think what you want your children to be. So you say, I'm not sure if I want to be a narcissistic, selfish person or not. Think about, do I want my children to be selfish narcissists? I mean, that's an easy example. You say, no, I want my children to be kind and loving. So often that's very clarifying. You think, what do I want to see my children in 50 years? You ask that to a Jew. What do you want to see your children? And the Jew will tell you, I want to see my child involved Jewishly, kind, loving, involved with the Israel and so forth. So that means that's what you want. That's what kind of home you want to build. So you ask, what do you, once children are involved, again, that will depend on the spouses. If it's two different faiths, what did they decide? How are they running? These are, again, I'm not trying to skirt the issue. It's really on a case-by-case basis. What did they decide? If they're two different faiths, how did they decide they're going to approach every holiday? How are they approaching milestones? Are they celebrating a bar mitzvah or not? Are they doing baptism and bar mitzvah? These are very, very complicated questions. It's very hard to answer without specifics. Then also Jewish law, in terms of Jewish history and Jewish law, says that the status of the Jew is determined by the mother. That's classic Jewish law for thousands of years. Now, and Judaism has a very beautiful insight here. It says the default should be the mom. One of the key reasons for it is a very moral and sensitive idea. Who works really hard during the pregnancy? So the father has a night of fun. The mother works hard for 10 months. Tremendous effort in terms of the pregnancy, and then the labor, so difficult. So Judaism says the default identity of the child is the mother's. It is cruel to say that here you have a mother who's of a different faith, let's say she's Christian. She carried the child for 10 months, 9 full months. And then she went through the whole labor process, and the moment the child is born, okay, it's not a Christian, it's not your identity, it's the dad's. It's just not right. So Judaism says the default identity is that of the mother's, which is humane and sensitive. So that is a very big factor Jewishly in terms of who the mom is. Now obviously, again, there's always a possibility for conversion. The children are going to have a big say in what faith they want to follow as they get older. There's a certain point in life when you have influence on your child, and then at a certain point it's up to the child to say, this is what I want in my life. This is the faith I want to follow and live and express. So that would become an issue. But those first few years with children is a inherently very complicated, more complicated than people of two faith communities could ever imagine before they get married. And all those questions, what happens with the circumcision, what happens with bar mitzvah, what happens with the education in between, what happens on Yom Kippur, what happens on Christmas. So you really can't answer those questions beforehand. But look, you're hoping you're dealing with two kind and sensitive people. who are loving, they'll figure out a way to move forward, but it is very difficult. Look, you just threw in so many more great challenges into marriage, which we know the statistics, 50% of them don't work out very well, right? So today at a college campus, 50% of the students are not in a home of the two people that brought them into the world. That's very sad. And then when you throw in intermarriage, that even becomes, the statistics go up higher.
So how do you think the increase of interfaith marriage affect the Jewish community as a whole?
Oh, it's very simple. The Jewish community is shrinking. Because if you have an interfaith marriage, statistically speaking, the children of that relationship are going to be much less engaged Jewishly. So they assimilate and disappear. To be Jewish takes education, takes effort, it takes courage. It's almost like on an escalator. When you go to an escalator, sometimes when you're a child, you have an escalator, and children want to run up the escalator the wrong way. So Jewish life is like that. To be Jewish and raise Jewish children is on an escalator the wrong way. If you stand and don't move, you're going down, because it's countercultural. And anything that's countercultural needs effort, it needs education. In other words, my neighbor has a Christmas tree, why shouldn't I? That's a fair question. Why should I have a menorah? If your whole neighborhood isn't doing it, then you need to study the history, you need to know the symbolism of the menorah. It's to be a light. Judaism is about bringing light and love into our hearts, into the world, from our home into the street. But that takes study, that takes effort, and it takes courage. But the escalator is moving down. In other words, if I just stand still and I don't teach and educate and practice, then there's no growth, there's no moving up. So even when you have a Jewish mom and a Jewish dad, Judaism survived thousands of years when all the great empires disappeared because of education. The secret to Jewish survival has always been beautiful education. With an intermarried couple, the education statistically is lacking tremendously. There's ambivalence, and there's mixed messages there, and so the child disappears into the culture. The melting pot melts away into the melting pot. So normally, grandchildren of intermarried couple is whatever the environment is. So the effect of the intermarried couple is the rapid disappearing of the Jewish community. In the 80s, people argued that we're going to intermarried couples, everybody will become Jewish, and the Jewish community will grow because now we doubled our membership. So that kind of accounting ends up in the business world is like Enron. That kind of accounting doesn't work. Today, 2014, everybody knows it doesn't work. The Pew polls just came out. Judaism didn't double. We are decreasing. Why? Because Judaism takes education. It's a sophisticated faith. The problem with Judaism is that it's for adults. Not that children are involved, but it takes education and wisdom and dedication. And intermarried couples, classically, there's great ambivalence there. Again, the intermarried couple, we're not talking about they're kind and wonderful people. We're talking about the Jewish element there.
So I think we're reaching the end of the interview, but do you have any more comments or anything?
Okay, yeah. Historically, if you look at Jewish history, and this is something for young Jews to consider, if you look at Jewish history, you will notice that some of the greatest empires in world history, the Greeks, the Egyptians, the Persians, and many others, the Romans, said we're going to destroy this small Jewish people. And we have holidays to commemorate some of those attacks and some of those events. On Passover, we eat matzah, we commemorate the great Egyptian Empire, tried to destroy the Jews, they failed. Hanukkah, the Greeks, powerful world empire, we have latkes and donuts. Purim, the Persian Empire, said we're going to wipe out the Jews. We have Hamantashen. If you look at these three delicacies that we eat, normally we think, oh, we have a matzah, we have donuts, we have Hamantashen, cute Jewish foods. But each one is a symbol of the greatest empire of the time who wanted to wipe out the Jewish community. Not only did they fail, and we survive, but we turned the enemy into some kind of jelly cookie or donut or matzah ball. In other words, there was hatred unleashed against us, and we turned it into something of joy, into a mitzvah, into eating something sweet ourselves and sharing it with others. To live Jewishly is beautiful. It's filled with joy. It has a power to outlast all great forces and empires in history. They came and faded, but Judaism continues. And so a young Jew has to think, to whatever it is that I want to do in life, to marry Jewish and build a whole Jewish home will add joy and depth and meaning and power and love to whatever it is that one wants to do in life. If you're Jewish, living Jewishly will only add depth and meaning and purpose and beauty and joy and eternity and sanctity to what it is you're going to do. So live Jewish, marry Jewish, build a Jewish home, become that light to the Jewish people, carry the faith of our tradition, and it will carry you. It will lift you to heights you never thought possible.